that's what we have to see in a subsequent discussion. So now you see, after all, we derived this equation for understanding of these points. Let's understand now on a comprehensive way what would be the expected braking force distribution, or how can we find out that in order to have an ideal braking scenario. So this scenario is what is an ideal braking scenario. So 3.52 and 3.53, which are going to give you maximum values at the front and the rear. That's an impending state. But there won't be further increase from that. That would be taken care by a control system in your vehicle. If that is so, you would have your vehicle stopped at the shortest distance. First thing, safely it can stop. That's first thing. So if that is so, what is the braking force distribution? That braking force distribution should be same as that of this. So let me write that expression, KBF by KBR. What is KBF? Is the fraction of braking force in the front axle from the total braking force that is available, right? KBR is what? Is a portion of the total braking force on the rear axle that's available from the brake system. So KBF and KBR are the fractions that we say. So if I have this ratio should be exactly same as that of FB F max by FB R max. That's going to be, see, this term are common that goes out, so I can have this is L2 plus H into mu P times FR by L1 minus H into mu P times mu P plus FR. So this is the expression. This expression let's call 3.54. So this expression gives you the ratio of the fraction of proportion of braking force in the front axle and the rear axle from the total brake force, right? So if the total braking force is 100%, what should be of this and what should be of this will be found out from this expression. So for example, let's look at the data of a light truck. Case study. Light truck data case study. So under loaded condition, in the loaded condition, the vehicle load W is 10,000 pounds. Whole number, so I just prefer this pounds unit, right? So in this, if you look at, it is given there are 68% of this load is on which axle given? It is given on the rear axle. 68% of this load is on rear axle. 68% of the static load on the rear axle. So that means now, how do I get my expressions? Look at here. In this mu P times W, if I take, I can also divide this by L, I can have it like that. So L2 by L is what? So how do I get this? See, you know now what is my WF static condition. So in same as that of this ratio is similar to that of whatever is that load distribution during static condition of your vehicle. Static load distribution. So what is the static load distribution? So WF is equal to WL2 by L. So now how much is this? That's going to be 68% of total W. Right? That's going to be 0.68 times W. So WW goes off. So I get L2 by L is 0.68. Just a minute. In the example problem, is it on the rear axle or in the front axle? Just let me just 68% of the static load on the rear axle. So if it is on the rear axle, WF is L2 by L. So this is not 6.8, this is 3.2, right? 32%. Because front axle. This is front axle load. 0.32. So this is L2 by L is 3.2. And WR, what is given is WL1 by L. That's what is 0.68% of total weight. So L1 by L is what is 0.68. So please keep a note of this. And of course, for this vehicle, you are given the ratio of CG height to the wheelbase. Why do you require? Look at in this expression H by L. So that's also given. H by L is 0.18, and you are given also the other value in this case study vehicle. Just a minute. You are also given FR value, rolling coefficient, rolling resistance coefficient is 0.01 for this vehicle, and so these are the data given. So look at now, I have in this expression, these all data can be substituted. So it's all on the road, MUP surface, the dry road, and it is given for this light track on the road surface of 0.85. So what is the braking efficiency possible? 100% braking efficiency possible. For 100% braking efficiency, how can I achieve? My A by G associated deceleration of the vehicle should be equal to 0.85. If that is there, 0.85 times G. Right, A by G is 0.85, this ratio. A is already in terms of G by G, so you have this 0.85. So then it is 100%. So that is what is dictated. The same vehicle light track is on a wet road surface, say 0.2. Then 100% braking is depends upon if your vehicle is able to develop on a wet surface with this value. So if your braking or this A by G developed is less than this 0.85 value, that means the braking efficiency is not 100%. What do you mean by that? The stopping distance would be more than what is minimum possible. That's the meaning. But always when you want to do with this 100% efficiency in a conventional braking system where no ABS is maintained, that is always risky. But ABS system takes care of this. Achieving this 100% braking efficiency. We'll see that in the next class on Wednesday, but we will continue our discussion with this now. Maybe I would continue this for another 20 minutes and stop it and of 2 periods together, right? So if I substitute these values now on this, what is that? I get KBF by KBR, right? I would get L2 by L, so that's 0.32. L2 by L is 0.32 plus H by L 0.18. Within bracket, I have my mu P is what is 0.85 and FR is 0.01 divided by, this is 0.68 minus 0.18. Then bracket 0.85 plus 0.01. So if I work out this, I get a numerator as 47 by denominator 53. So what do you mean by this? So 47% of total braking force that is coming from the brake system should be distributed in the front axle braking force. That is what is KBF. And then 53% should be on the rear. So if that is so, I would get my ideal braking. Ideal braking, I would achieve my 100% efficiency of my braking system and wheels will not be locked. This is a condition. It is just an impending wheel lock. It's not wheel locking, impending stage of wheel lock. Now wheel lock will be slightly more than this percentage. If I give that is going to be, so front axle is 47. Instead, if I have more than 47, what would happen? Less than 47, what would happen? Can anyone answer? Can anyone answer? If my proportion here, what I found out is not 47%, say it is 50, down also 50, 50%, what would happen to my vehicle? Or it is 40, 60 denominator, what would happen to my vehicle? Or it is 60 in the front axle, 40 in the rear axle distribution, what would happen to my vehicle? Can anyone answer?
Sir,
Sir, if both wheels will lock at the same time, sir.
Both the wheels?
Both the wheels will lock at the same time and it stands for skidding.
Both the wheels are a few wheels. That's what is very important. See, now this is what is called an ideal braking. That means no wheels are locking. No wheels are locking. Or wheels are about to lock. If slight increase in my braking force or the disturbance in this, if these proportions are varying, if it has become 48, there will be wheel locking. If it is 46 also, there will be wheel locking. But numerator and denominator sum is always equal to 100%. That is what is the definition of your KBF and KBR. So now my question is, if my numerator, that is KBF, is increases to 50% or say 48%, say for example slight increase 48%, will the locking is unavoidable. Locking will happen, but the locking of all four wheels are not taking place simultaneously. Locking of all four wheels are not taking place simultaneously. So it will be either front wheel locks or rear wheel locks. So my question now is, if it is 48% and 52% in the rear, which are the wheels are locked? Are the front wheels locked or the rear wheel locked?
front wheel, sir.
Front wheel locked. How do you say?
The brake force is more.
Brake force are more in the front wheel. Okay, if it is 40% in the front and 60% in the rear wheel brake force are more. So which wheels will be locking first? Are the front wheels or the rear wheels?
So in this case, the rear wheels.
In this case, the rear wheels. There are two conditions, right? Let me have those conditions, and then let's see that how is it coming. So if case 1, if KBF for the same vehicle parameter, right? For the same vehicle parameter, same vehicle parameters and road condition. And road condition. Case 1, if KBF is 48% of total FB, right? And KBR is 52% of total FB. That's one case. Case 2, if KBF is 5% of FB, and simultaneously it is 55% of FB for KBR, right? So if this is so, definitely there is locking would happen. So if we have this, that is why it's called an ideal braking. So all wheels are not locking, or if it is locking, simultaneously locking. No locking, no wheels are locking. I have written, right? No wheels are locking and you have a maximum, or this is the meaning of all wheels are impending to lock. You can say all the wheels are impending to lock. That's the condition here. So now if I have this proportions are varied, so which can make this variation? 48%, 52%. See, the CG height is fixed, vehicle parameter fixed, road condition is fixed, μp is fixed, tire rolling resistance coefficient fixed. So it would be only the load distribution in the front and the rear axle. right? Front and the rear axle. So if I have exact proportion of my static load condition, I would always go to that of ideal braking, where all the wheels can lock simultaneously. Or it is a condition that no wheels are locking just before the impending state. So that's the scenario. Right. So if we have this condition, now here which wheel will lock first? That's the question. I got some answer from you. Can you repeat the answer? Which will lock in this case one? Is it the front wheel locking or rear wheel locking? Huh?
So the front wheels are locking.
Here front wheels are locking, right? Front wheel lock. And here?
So the rear wheels are locking.
Rear wheels are locking. Rear wheels are locking before the front wheels, like that you should say. Front wheels are locking before the thing. So front wheel lock before rear wheel locks in this case. And in this case, rear wheel locks before front wheel locks, right? If I apply my brakes fully jams on it, all the wheels are locking. But my braking distribution is like this comes, I have my conditions are now dictated like this. So how could you say this? What is that? Tell you that you say front wheel lock here and rear wheel lock in this case. Can you answer again?
So because the brake force distribution compared to the ideal condition,
yeah,
it is in the front. In the first case, the brake force distribution is higher in the front wheels, and in the second case, it is higher in the in the rear wheels compared to the ideal braking condition.
Excellent, correct. But how that that make you to intuitively think that this would happen?
Sir, is it because of
right?
transfer of load between the axles?
Yeah. No. The percentage variation, that's fine, because that is what I was telling. These all are fixed. Whatever is there on this side. Only the load is not same as that of static condition. That is only scenario can change it, right? See, this 4753 is what is your requirement for 100% braking efficiency. So you see here 0.18, 0.18, and these all are fixed. That's not changing. So there will be variation over here. 0.32 or this can be changing, right? So that is changing is because of the transfer of migration of your CG along the longitudinal direction. Then only this can change, right? So how can you have your static component changing? See, the CG location from the ground is not going to change. So my H by L is fixed. L is not going to change. Wheel base is going to be same. It's a rigid wheels. Axle cannot have like this coming and going out, right? So this is fixed. Tire property is fixed. Road condition is fixed. So there can be only change in this. So the change in this is dictated by what? So this is in your front axle. So this is given by W L2 by L, and this is W L1 by L. So L1 and L2 can change. So L1 and L2 can change how the CG is migrating in that longitudinal axis. Then it can happen. So CG is not going to migrate when it is under static load distribution. But in dynamic condition, you can have your braking force applied. This variation is going to be because of CG migration along the longitudinal axis without changing from the height of CG location from the ground. That's what you understand, right? Then this portion can be changing. So there could be increase in this when I have my L2 increases. L2 increases means my CG is coming in front towards forward direction of my vehicle, right? At the same time, what will happen? My L1 is reduces. So that is also going to favor here. So the change is because of the migration of CG on the longitudinal axis. That's one thing. And front wheel locks, you say that because of this variation, no, you can say. So that is a difficult task. To tell that you require, your answer is correct here, but that's what I was asking. How could you say this answer correctly? Or what is the basis that you are doing it? You said that because from the ideal condition, in this case, there is an increase in the numerator. Of course, there is a decrease in the denominator accordingly. Look at this. Both are happening. And here, there is a decrease in the numerator and there is an increase in the denominator. So how could you make this statement? What is that is helping you? Or I can ask you in another way, how can you quantitatively determine this wheel locking? Can you say that? For that, you have to calculate what is A by G associated with the vehicle. A by G means the deceleration rate associated with the vehicle because of distribution of braking force is what you should calculate. If you calculate this A by G associated, then you would be able to say which wheel is going to lock first or second, right? So let me just give you that final one, and we will discuss that in subsequent class, right? So if we are looking at A by G, you can derive an expression for A by G for the front wheel. So what do you mean by that is front wheel lockup first, right? This is for front wheel lockup first. If the deceleration associated with the vehicle due to front wheel lock is less than by A by G R, if this is the condition, right? The front wheel lockup first, if these conditions are there. So what is this condition? What are this A by G? What is A by G? So A by G is the deceleration rate associated with your vehicle. So where is that coming from? Look at in your force balance. Here we had in this expression. Here we had written here. Sorry, this. So here whatever that you have WA by G, this A by G, whatever is there in this is what is the deceleration of your vehicle. So deceleration associated with the braking force distribution is what you have to see. If we have this deceleration associated with the front wheel lock or rear wheel lock, right? So you should say in this way. We had it here, right? So front wheel lockup first. If just a minute, let me give you a clear statement for that same. So I have to look at my deceleration associated with my vehicle in G units, that is A by G, right? A by G, which is dimensionless. So A by G front is less than that of A by G R. So what do you mean by A by G subscript F? That's what you have to understand. So A by G subscript F refer to the deceleration associated with an impending lockup of the front tires. So the subscript whatever that I put is the deceleration of the vehicle associated with the front wheel lockup, deceleration of the vehicle associated with the rear wheel lockup, right? When both the wheels lock simultaneously, what is the condition? I require the deceleration achievable in both the scenario should be same. This is that required ideal condition, ideal braking. This is an ideal braking. Whereas if you look at here, the front wheel lockup first means A by G deceleration of the vehicle associated with the impending. What is this? This is an impending front wheel lockup first. Impending front wheel lockup means all the wheels are not locking and front wheel is about to lock. If you have whatever the deceleration associated with the vehicle, if this is expected and this has happened to be lesser than this, then you would have front wheel lockup first. Similarly, the rear wheel. Lockup first. If I have my A by G or deceleration associated with the expected rear wheel lockup is smaller than that of A by G F. A by G F. So if I say that I would have my deceleration expression, the A by G F, I would have one expression, A by G, I would have another expression, and I can plot a deceleration A by G with the braking force distribution KBF. I take KBF alone. So if this is my KBF, I can have a plot, and that plot will be like this. So say this is 0% to 100% of my braking force. KBF is completely 100%, is never preferred, right? So you would have now the expression of KB A by GR or A by GF would be such that I would have two plots for them. One goes like this, other goes like this. So if I plot this and it can extrapolate like this, I can put it. Both will intersect at a point, and that point is going to be my 0.85. And there is a corresponding value here, that is my KBF, which is in this case 47%. So this line, solid line O to A, is what is expecting or giving the boundary of rear wheel lock. This line comes from the expression. Analytically, I can get it. For that, I have to look at my free body diagram. Again, I have to derive the expression, which I have not done. I will do it in the next class. Right? So this is my rear wheel lock impending condition, or the boundary that if I have my braking force less than 47 here, that is going to be more pronouncing for rear wheel lock. And here, if I have my distribution is more than 47, that's going to be favoring for front wheel lock. So now we look at again until your answers are correct. If it is 48%, you said front wheel lock. So 48% is on this side. So it is going to intersect this line. So front wheel lock is correct. And 50% is 45%, second case, is on this side. This side. So that's going to be intersecting this before this line. That's why rear wheel lock. So you are going to have an expression of A by G F and A by G R. Those expressions, if you plot as function of KBF, you can do that in Excel sheet for any chosen vehicle, or your digital assignment, you have your vehicle. So you have all this data. So consider the assumption of your road condition, and for the given road condition, you can find out your chosen vehicle will lock up first front wheel or rear wheel like that. So this is correct. So your answer is correct. So that answer to say you require a quantitative analysis, and that we will do in the next class. But now I would conclude the lecture by stating an important point, and again we'll discuss on those physics in the next class. So what would happen if front wheel lock first? So it is going to cause loss of directional control. Slipping. Loss of directional control. And here, when rear wheel lock first before the front wheel, it is going to create unstable state. It is directional stability, loss of directional stability. So what do you mean by loss of directional stability? A driver cannot exercise his steering to get back his vehicle. So the directional stability loss is because of yaw acceleration. Yaw acceleration. So what do you mean by yaw acceleration? Let us discuss in the next class. So loss of directional control means what? Which could be an effective steering is lost, but driver can be alerted and he can reduce the braking force distribution, or he can reduce the braking force that comes on the wheel, so that this control can be regained. So that's why loss of directional control is manageable, whereas loss of directional stability is not manageable. That's why in some of the countries where the safety norms or legislative norms are importantly dictated, in case of wheel locking cannot be prevented on an operating condition. In case of wheel locking are not able to be prevented. That means what? It has to be prevented in any preferred condition. Any situation, wheel locking should be prevented. In case of it is not prevented, such situation comes, the vehicle has to get front wheel locking before the rear wheel locking. That's a condition expected of the vehicle. Correct? So that would be mainly dictated by the road condition. So that's all what we will discuss in the next class. I will stop at this point, and if you have any doubts, you can ask. So now the question posted nicely by the respond, I got it from a student, is that stating this front wheel lock or rear wheel lock, looking at this value, you can always remember, but how that is coming is quantitatively to say, or you have to work on the vehicle that you have chosen, 3 vehicles. You are expected to have the expression for A by G associated with the impending rear wheel lock in the impending front wheel locks, so that you would have those plots, and that would give you this condition. And this plot, whatever that I have drawn, is for a loaded vehicle. Loaded vehicle. So if you see, the load also is going to influence. If an unloaded vehicle, if you take, this will be different. So for that, whatever this distribution is there, that's not going to work out. So you have to look at loaded and unloaded case both. So we will continue discussion in the next class, right? Yeah. Do you have any other doubts?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, during this derivation, you said that the load is transferred from the rear to the front, sir. Sir, but over here we have a gradient, like a positive gradient, in which the load will be transferred to the rear, no, sir?
No, that effect will be not that much. See, the load transfer dynamic component is what is primarily going to act. See, if you look at dynamic part of your load is what is this, right? What is coming from here, H by L, this. So this portion would be added to the front, and this much is subtracted from the front. So you are thinking that the grade load comes there is one of the moment component here, WL sin theta into H. This is one of the, you are asking good question. That's all we feel, no, actually intuitively, but mathematical equation and the equilibrium is what is finally bringing in the whole physics. So you are thinking on this moment, right? Because of this weight component is in down, so load is on the rear. How can it be on the front? That's what we are asking. So this is there by default on a grade. But when you are accelerating or decelerating, that's a condition. In this case, it's deceleration because you apply the braking. So you are having this inertia moment. So this is very important, right? That's what we are deriving here. So when a vehicle is not at all moving, this is going to be 0. All resistant moments are 0. You would have only this component, this only. W sin theta also is not going to be there because it's not. W sin theta will be there, but the moment by that, 1 minute. So this is static part and this is dynamic part, right? So this W sin theta is there here, you see. W sin theta is there here. It's along with the all. And it is subtracted. This expression is it's subtracted from the static load. That's why it is less there. So why do you have such doubt? Is that clear, or still you have the doubt?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
This free body diagram, no, it is all already accounted. You look at it. So when vehicle is not moving, you know what is the load distribution, right? So now what is happening to the rear load and the vehicle is braking is getting reduced from this. This minus sign is an explanation. What is happening in the front axle, WF, you see this expression plus of this. So that is getting added. So here, whatever that I have, this all are going to be. So I can calculate this dynamic load component. What is added to the front, what is the same amount is subtracted from the rear. So your intuition of W sin theta is there here in this expression already. So that is getting added here. So WA by G is more compared to this. So this all goes off. So you have that load comes. That is why we are going to look at now considering only WA by G in our further analysis to find out the deceleration rate associated with the vehicle wheel locks that we will discuss in the next class. All right? Am I answered your question? Your doubt
Yes,
is
sir.
clear? Yeah.
Yes,
good.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So you can proceed for the next class. I think I have taken 5 minutes more. We'll try to stick on to the right time, right? Yeah, as I have always said, no, you can proceed to the lecture. No need to wait. Unavoidable condition I will extend, but others can proceed. So you can just put it in chat box and proceed. I will download the attendance sheet. So today this 7:30 to 9 considered to be 2 periods, right? It's lecture number 15 as well as 16. And we'll have again class on Wednesday 9 o'clock. And I also inform that D1 slot you are free. If that is so, we will just try to alter some of that, which I would later inform you, right? This week we'll have again next class on Wednesday 9 o'clock. Yeah, I downloaded your attendance. You can proceed to the next class.